We are back on main stage, international track with streaming. Now we have a speaker, Martin Knobloch, who is a global AppSec strategist at Microfocus. And Martin will tell us about the mindset of a hacker, how to avoid some traps that hacker can prepare for us. And as always, you can ask to the Martin question using our chat, and don't wait till the end of Martin's presentation. Just write them during the speak. So Martin, the stage is yours. Please make a show.
Thanks, Mateo. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everybody. So the hacker's mindset, this is as we write the software, and I say we because I have been a developer, we have a different perspective on the functionality we write. Because our perspective, we get paid to write functionality, so we write functionality and that everybody should use, except a hacker might have a different mindset to look at that. But first, let's say from blue pill, red pill, all you will learn, it's not to private enrichment. Hacking is illegal. And even you as a developer have to think about not only in production it's illegal, it's also made when you are hired by an external company to write a software and you do some security testing because you heard about it and you screw it up and the production is delayed, production live going is delayed, you can be fined for this. So be very careful, even in your development environment, when you are hacking, when you don't know what you do. My first rhetorical questions, as unfortunately you cannot answer, is which pill did Neo take? For those who don't know, it was the red one. And there's a reason why I'm referring to the metrics. The metric is because we all know there is something we see, it's our interface, that happens behind. And our assumption, what is in our interface, what we define, and what will happen on the back end. Of course, you are techies mostly. You should have some assumptions. The assumptions are good because you have some reasonable assumptions. You know what you have developed in the past, so you know when you go to some screen and you know what functionality should be in the backend. Those who don't work with computers on a daily basis or not developers, they have different assumptions. But I will now take you to the limit. So where is the assumption true or not? We all know this mind-boggling, like bending the physics experiences, things that we think could not be possible, but still people doing it. You see that with people going from a handstand to almost like a push-up bar, but not touching the ground and going back up again. This looks like physics-defined things. But actually what you do is just you go up to the limit of what physics allows. Therefore, we assume it would not be possible. And the same is for hacking sometimes. We just don't think about the corner cases. And those corner cases are possible. It's just we haven't thought about it. We haven't been trained about it. And therefore, we might negate that this is possible. And then maybe it's still possible or it's not possible anymore, depending on the perspective. Of course, in a less than 30 minutes presentation, I cannot make you a hacker. We are not in the metrics as we know, so I cannot just put some connector in your spine and upload knowledge. But what I can do, what I try to achieve with this presentation is to sensitize you, to make you sensitive to some situations. When you look at the code, when you look at functionality, when you look at the application, you might think, hey, I heard about this. Some gray cells in your brain will like, this is awkward, right? And this is the first step. So the best example sometimes is when you buy a new car, when you buy a new mobile phone, when you buy a new laptop, you buy something that's cool, it's new, nobody has them. The moment you click the button to order this, you will see it everywhere because now you're sensitized. For me, it was when I first became father, suddenly you see pregnant women everywhere. It's very normal. So I want to sensitize you to the insecurity or possible insecurity things in your functionality. It's not about hacking, like breaking code stuff or breaking encryption. It's like using the functionality that you or others have written to again the application has not been meant to. That's actually is hacking, right? Hacking, like live hacking, use something in a different context or a different way. As I said, sensitize you is the first thing we say, and the first thing is like one thing we hack without really hacking. It's what we call the Barbra Streisand effect. And it has a name by this famous actor and singer because Barbra Streisand once bought a villa in a small countryside location. And the neighbors, the local newspaper, was so excited. So they had a local television station, I think it was. They were so excited. They had a news item. Said, guys, people, you know, Barbra Streisand is coming to live in our neighborhood. And you would think maybe Barbra Streisand was to be happy, but she was not. So she went to court, and because she didn't want this local newspaper telling everybody that she bought this house for that price in that area. But what actually was a small local news item, because she found this television station, became a national news in the US, and suddenly all those big television stations had a news item from Barbra Streisand sues this little television station because she doesn't want them to tell about this villa she bought for that price in that area. So by trying to hide it in this way, maybe you just push it towards the global knowledge. It's the same when you have some functionality. Sometimes you know when you want to remove something from the internet. What is the internet actually? So yeah, I can plug my cable, I can kill the server, and the application, the information should be gone. But we also know that there are search engines. The search engines, they index the internet, and they also they keep copies, they keep differences. What happened yesterday, what I could find yesterday or last week, and what I find now. So they keep track on everything that is removed from the internet. So what is more interesting? What's newly added to the search engine index, or what is removed from the index? There are websites, they are looking for the delta, and they're looking what is removed, because that's the internet part. So not just to remove because it doesn't exist anymore, it's removed because somebody had the legal way to remove it, some information. That might be the interesting one, right? So they're not looking at every day what it's all in there because it's too much, but they're looking at delta, what is removed. So that's the information that you might want. Looking with that, there is always a way how to achieve our goal as a hacker. And we see all those hacking competitions, and they call it capture the flags, where you have this like almost jeopardy, like this 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 points, different challenges for online challenge, crypto challenge, web challenge. This is very one vulnerability, one goal. But actually in your application, hopefully there's not an SQL injection 100 page there, right? So when somebody is very good in CTF, that means he has the skills in the finger to exploit a vulnerability. But does he also has this, he or she has the hacker the ability to find in the application, in the scope, find the weaknesses. It's not always one thing and you're there. It's two steps. You first have to get access maybe to the network, find the backdoor, and then have a service that is not patched, and go from there to owning a mail server, jumping to a web server, and then bring it in. So it's a multi-step thing. That means that you need to understand the complexity of software. Of course, these days we see in front end, Android is written in Java. If I have iOS application, and I know what's written there. Most applications are written PHP, I think I heard still. And enterprise applications mainly in Java and .NET. But now we have this, the cloud services. So we have much more cloud technologies, because hopefully not just lift and shift an existing application towards the cloud, but also enabling the cloud abilities. Otherwise, you have the disability from two sides. You want to have to gain the most from the cloud environment. So because it becomes more complex, the segregation of technology, you need more understanding. We are all humans because we have limited understanding, scope, interest. So you need more than one. You need a good team to build good software, and you need a good team to verify the software security. That means in your team, in your DevOps team, there should be a security champion. And be careful, it should not be the one who has to fix all the issues. It should be the liaison to security team. Be updated to, as we have those test specialists, also the security specialist who knows how to enable this security test automation. Yeah. And when you look application, it's always, we look at the scope of your application, or for a security assessment, as a friend of mine and I came together, it should be scope plus one. And you look at the software, because the software runs somewhere in a application. server. And the application runs on a network server, and the network server runs on the network. So it's like when you do a bank robbery, you don't only look at the safe, right? You have to look, where's the safe located? So in a building, and then you zoom out, where is this building located? What is around there? And how do I get there? And how do I get away? Yeah, so you always have to understand the scope, what you're looking at, and one scope beyond that at least. And that brings us to the next step, because people think always like there is a secrecy. Nobody knows how my architecture is done for my software. But first, how many people worked on the life cycle of the application on your software? And when you're using .NET applications and an IIS server, I know how it's built, the physical structure of it. And if I use whatever Apache server, I know how it's structured, most likely because nobody changes it. Even so, when, and I think everybody understands, we don't live in under the stone, we live in buildings. Everybody knows what a blueprint looks like. And a blueprint is like the technical sitemap. We know the physical limitation of application server. As I get a blueprint from a building, I can look into the blueprint of a building. I know where the main walls are. In all the burglar movies, you see them before they really break in. They have the site visit. They look very unsuspicious with big sunglasses and fur coats on how it's real there. Why? Because the motion detectors are not on the blue screens. The temporary walls are not there. The closets, the chairs, it's not in the blueprint. So you need a technical sitemap, a blueprint, and a functional one you have to look through around. We are always used to think there is a wall, and I cannot go through a wall. But we also have one thing in the hacker mindset. When I'm burgling, when I'm breaking in somewhere, I don't want to repair the damage. I don't care about what I'm breaking. If I want to go somewhere in and there's a window, I smash the window, right? At least it's the quickest access. I don't care if a window costs 10,000 euros. I want this DVD recorder for 50 euros. And that's something we forget. It's something how we tend to write software. For me, it became very visible when I was writing a security report late in the night, and there's Lord of the Rings, 2 towers came on television. And so half in my report, half listening, watching this movie, I saw this scene, 2 towers, when the Urukais attack the city. And the first thing you attack is the wall, the thing that's made to keep you out most. We see that not happening really in the hacking, because I'm not just attacking the firewall. I can maybe put load on the firewall on the outside skirt to distract the traffic. And then I have to find a weak spot. Like in the city, Saruman says, the city has a weak spot. There's a weak spot everywhere. You have to find the weakest spot, the weakest entrance. And here in this movie, the funny thing was that suddenly this, I don't want to be king, and the dwarf, they had to go around and have killed the Urukais because they were almost like breaking in the door, the thing that's made to enter a city. What you see is then they step outside a door with no door handle, no lock. That's sometimes how we write applications. It's with everything on the outside, with the high walls, we have our demilitarized zone, we have our web environment, a web server there, and then suddenly we need a connection to a service supply, to an API, external API, and we open a back door without verification. Hackers are not Urukais. They will not come there hitting the drums and tell you that they hacked you. They will listen to your network traffic when they can, and they will detect a backdoor like this. So when you see an application, the best thing is to look at the application as it would be a physical building. Right? Your technical site is the first thing. You always want to know who is visiting your site, how they're behaving. That's what we do for ages already in web shops to see the usability of function of application, right? Who is there, how they are moving around from for market website, online shop, from logging in or visiting the site to buying a product. How long do they spend? How many other products have they looked at? It's all interesting data. So we need to know who is in the building with our motion detection and how do they move around. And of course, if they're a restricted area, for example, online shop, when I want to check out a product, then I have to authenticate to be authorized to do a purchase. What we have to find, what we look for, is this side tricks, the bypassing those physical limitations. So it's about the path to gain your success, right? That's how hacking is. When you get a security report and it only tells you this vulnerability, this exploit, and this result, it doesn't help you because you need to know. You had a good storyteller should tell you. They look at the website. Why did it try it? And did it success in the first place? Or why did it did another try? Why did it look there? Why did it scope on this side? And how did they actually find this vulnerability, this weakness, and then exploit it? Right? The path to the success. That's a very important one because everything is just say, as I would say, my kids, right? If they fire is hot, they say, "Oh yeah." Everybody tells me, but you only know how it feels to burn your hand when you did it, right? You cannot understand otherwise. So go to the security basics, and that's I cannot put enough emphasis on it. Input validation and output handling. Shit in is shit out, right? If somebody accidentally puts in bad input, you say, sorry, we can help you. Please go back. But if somebody does it repeatedly on purpose, then they play with your application, right? We have this HTTP proxies, the intercept proxy, where I can change the fields, the parameters, completely create new parameters, change the name, add some, remove some in your request and response. So if somebody plays around, fools around with your application, just say, hey, sorry, this request is not meant to happen. Please try again. If it's, of course, if it's something wrong in the application functionality, you have to fix it. Otherwise, somebody's trying to fool around. We also know that shopping is most things, applications, is money, but there's much more value in it. Another thing is that you know that there is a connection between where you are and where you're going to. When you always have, for example, you can freely browse all the websites when you're not purchasing. Why? Because every boundary I put between the user and their gain will cost me customers. So you want to have show them, hey, please visit my website, come to me. And there's the cookie thing to try to trace. And also the cookie, there are now limitations with GDPR because you cannot trace them unlimitedly. You have to be careful what you trace, why you're tracing it. We all know this. Yes, you can change those cookie settings. I don't want to go into that too much. But everybody has seen this, right? Our username password field, password forgot the link and create a new account. I think everybody should be aware of that. When you ever build this, let's look at the first part. If you would create this yourself, how would it work? How would you write an authentication process? If you're using a password of, as security people say, it's first is the username is the identity, the name of the identity you claim, right? And so we have this name, so we have to create a user. So what we will do, we go to the user database, right? We make query, get user by username. And if the user exists, we proceed, and if user does not exist, we will stop, right? Because we are trained for efficient programming. And then we would, from the same request, take the password, and we have to hash the password first, and then compare it with the password stored with maybe the user. This is a resource expensive process. So would you do that? Then okay, say, hey, first get a username, user object. If user exists, we hash the password, then we compare it. Congratulations. That is actually how you created the vulnerability we had in medicine, actually medicine. It is how we learn to write software, right? If there is a resource-heavy process, don't do it unless required. But here, the process is actually giving a way of enabling automation on penetration testing, right? I heard people saying this is you're losing or you're giving away if user does exist or not. A user is a privacy thing, but it's not a secret. When you work at a company called mytrade.com, whatever company is, mycompany.com, then you're called Martin Knobloch, as I am, then I know there might be an email address, either mknobloch or martin.knobloch at this domain name, right? So that's not a secret. So there's a difference in secret thing or privacy. Because don't want to leak it. But here the problem is not a user enumeration. The problem is that I can automate, go through this, and on the feedback I see, hey, this user doesn't exist. I don't have to try to hack the password. Hey, the user does exist, so I can now load my password dictionary and run this scan. That's what you see now is, for example, Google has this two-step verification, right? There's username, and then the next page is the password verification. So the timing does not exist. Okay, so this is one thing. So indirect information you give away just by the process timing will work or not. That's also how blind SQL injection works, by the way. Next one is the password forgotten field. I had companies, I said them, if you don't need to, if everybody has an email address who's a user at your company, at your website, why would you have passwords anyway? Because the password forgotten link, you have all the security questions. And Bruce Schneider many years ago already said, they don't worry because I can find all this information. In the past, it was Britney Spears, I think. That's Paris Hilton, sorry. I really bad his names, but I cannot forget her name is Tinkerbell, because this was her password for a website. And the same we had in 2018, so 13 years later, with Sarah Palin having the name of her daughter as a secret word. So there is no secret. The same problem is with passwords. We cannot remember passwords, so we get all this password complexity. Maybe we should get just rid of passwords. Even with the two-factor authentication, at least we have new devices where I just otherwise click OK, and not the token that I have to type over again, because that is even bad. So what you wanted actually, or would like to do slightly, is I'm the user, and you say, are you logging in? Say yes, and then go on. Forget about passwords. We should get rid of passwords forever. The other thing is, of course, we look very much on authentication should be safe. We always say password forgotten should be safe, but also the account creation can have vulnerabilities. So look into this, for example, the implicit binding versus explicit binding. You might have seen this with your template engine and your business backend objects. So that actually was in GitHub. So when you create an account, and simplify this now, okay, you put in username, password, in some address data, it will create an object, copy an object on this other side. But what he found out, that is added a role to it from the server. So the next time he looked at the request, he says, listen, hey, suddenly I have a role ID. So apparently on the server side, a role ID had been added to my user field. So the next one he did is create a new user object on the front end and added this role field himself. And suddenly, wow, what is admin? Always 1, right? Or 0, depending on how it's written. So he added the role ID 0 and it became admin on GitHub. That's the thing between explicit and implicit binding. So when there's sensitive information you copy from one object to the other, it should be explicit, sorry, not just copy the whole object from front end to back end. Always verify this information you want to leak to the front end and not just giving this thing away. Another weakness of software is when you have the disconnection of the connection between the digital world and the physical world, right? For example, and this is more processing. When I book a hotel in a city on a regular day, for example, in the Netherlands, we have King's Day. And if the king would say he comes to Utrecht, all the hotel prices out of King's Day would be going up because everybody wants to see the king. So his birthday is the 27th of April. If I would book a hotel room on the 27th of March, like just a month earlier, the hotel price would be lower. So I could book one day too early, say, oh, sorry, computers are so complex. I meant to book a month later because I want to be there for King's Day. And then hotels are in hospitality environment, so they might very much looking forward for you. And they would say, okay, no problem. And they would try to change it to the new date. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. These days with all those internet brokers, it works a bit differently. I said, this is actually not hacking, this is allowed. But I'm not saying you should do it, because the hotels know about it. It's just they say, I maybe lose 40 euros for one customer, but it means I have a certified customer, so you will book again. The other thing, more important thing would be when you fly, right, with your boarding ticket. Because there are two information there. One is human readable. It says your seat number and everything, and the other is QR code. And the QR code normally is only checked by the moment when you go through the security gate. When you are on the plane, they never look at the QR code, right? But what would happen if I change the seat number to business class suddenly? So you come in late, you beep, boop, you're okay, you run because you're late, and you have your luggage checked in. It's very important because they don't want to miss that you're exploiting the urge of leave in time, because for airline it's very expensive to miss their takeoff timeline window. So you go there late, you have check-in luggage, but you have two boarding tickets. One, you go through the machine, and the other one says suddenly that you have instead of economy plus, you have business class. Will they check it? Will they find out or not? Because these days with the apps, you can find until the last moment. You can see which seats are available, and you can change your seat until the last moment you check it. Interesting one. This is not allowed actually, so don't do this. And also, automation IT in the planes gets better, so they might have a scanner now definitely for an intercontinental flight. But it's always the thing between when you go from the digital world to the physical world. It's an interconnection. How to do that? The same kind of environment is a replay attack. What happens if you do the same transaction? I mean, transaction in an IT perspective. If you do the same transaction again, we have seen that a lot in cars, where the key fob, is sent not once but twice. How does it happen? It's you see the hacker. They're coming there. These days they order for a car, so they found a car. They arrive there. They know there will be outside cameras, so they have a black box. They go to the front door and see if the key is in the approximate area where they can detect it. And the black box will act as being the car. So the key recognizes there's a car close by and will send his keyless entry options. And then they walk back to the car where they change then the settings, so the black box becomes the key. And the car recognizes the key, comes by and will unlock the car. How to solve this? There are solutions out there already, but something also for you. What happens in your application if by any quirk or feature what happens in the application, the same transaction is sent again? Do we have protection again? Are there some ideas of these not consecutive transactions? Think about it. Also, I want to talk to you about identity theft. And I say, a lot of people like, what can I lose? These days, the Privacy Act in the different countries, definitely GDPR, but it's even more serious in the Philippines, the Singapore Privacy Act, and is as almost compatible with GDPR as the California Privacy Act, is what is data? We don't have data ownership in the Netherlands, and actually we talk about data subjects. Because data theft doesn't mean I steal something from you. If somebody steals my identity, it doesn't mean that I'm not Martin Knobloch anymore. It just means somebody else can now pretend to be me. That can be scary. And now pretend to be me also can send information in my name. Thefts would normally mean that you steal somebody, you have no use of that anymore. So it's different for identity theft, right? So next, of course, the big problem is now when you have information leakage and identities are leaked out, you have to report it, right? And we have seen that more and more. It's not the owner of the software who is responsible. It's the writer of the software who is responsible. In the Netherlands, we have a big case now where by a customer satisfaction platform, the software vendor, those who wrote the software, are now sued to pay the damage. That will be interesting. So you as a developer have to do your best to protect your information. And the best thing to protect something is not to have it. So again, with passwords, for example, don't save them if not required. And if you don't need a username to be kept in the metadata, keep them apart. So be very, very careful also how you transfer information from one system to the other, right? We think, oh, everything is possible and share it. We have to learn that data is ownership, is responsibility. So when you gain data, you gain more responsibility. That means you have to take care of more responsibility. Be aware of that. So 2 more slides. One is definitely the interesting one, is the baby duck authentication. That's for IoT mainly very important. So baby duck, the first thing a duckling does when he hatches the egg is it looks for mama and quack, and this whatever is there, it recognizes as a mama, it will follow the rest of its life, even for human. The same is for your IoT device, right? When you buy an IoT device or you sell one and you just do factory reset, it's all data, right? No, it just assumes it will trust the quality of the Unix user system, right? The user is deleted, and therefore no other user should be able to access the data. Is it like that? So be careful when you sell an IT device, an assumption what you have on if it's wiped or not. Again, the thing between the physical and the digital side is the difference between, hey, I'm a cool hacker, but I have only Bitcoin somewhere on a suspicious cryptocurrency bank? Or can I have wealth? Do I live with my parents' attic and live from pizza and cola? Or can I drive a Ferrari? Right? So when the moment when you want this digital money to make value of it, then you can be detected. That means we don't always want to go to the full of prevention. This is because you can't. Then we have to make detection because you didn't detect what somebody did. Not prevent it, but detection is easier. So who was logged in as home with privileges to do what? Because, for example, we have with electronic patient files. When you have a heart attack on street, they don't put the laptop first and look who you are. They have procedure how you keep your life. The thing is, we want to control and verify how data is shared, who accesses data, and not just for everybody, right? Be transparent in the rules when you have a service about data. Who is accessing it? Log what is done. And log is not a log file that you use with info, debug, and error. The log file is what we call an audit trail, where you only can write to, and you can read from, but you cannot delete. So you have a log entries in your audit trail. That is your detection. That's the only way of verification that is suitable in front of a judge or a courthouse. So think about look up for audit trails. I hope that I kind of made you sensitive aware of some vulnerability possibilities. I hope that helps you in teaching that when you ever think something quick on the your functionality of somebody else. Remember, whatever happens, whatever data you get, gets you more responsibility, and the best secure, most secure way should be the easiest way. I think that's the most important thing. Input validation, output handling, and common sense. Matteo, back to you, and is there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Martin, for your presentation. Please remember all of you to rate this presentation using stars under the video player, and I will check the chat if we have any questions from the audience. And I don't see, so the presentation was so great that no one have any question to you, Martin. So thank you very much once again for your very interesting presentation, very useful, I think, presentation for all of us. And thank you for all of you for participation in this session, and see you after a short technical break.
Thanks for having me.